Very good morning. I'm really happy to be here now because today we are going to discuss one of the most spoken topic and also one of the most misunderstood one. We are going to talk about Kundalini. Yes, many gurus and many saints, pundits, even scientists spoke about Kundalini. But in my heart, I always felt there was never a communion between science and spirituality because science and spirituality is fundamentally the same aspect viewed from different views. The most of the spiritual scriptures were recorded by science and it is subjective in nature. When it comes to science, scientists fundamentally they don't believe their emotions. They only believe what they can see, hear, touch, and feel. So it is objective in nature. Scientists always want some object or a machine to say something because they think it is an unbiased thing. They can never imagine a human being who is unbiased. So before getting into today's topic, I'm really glad to announce that November 8, we are planning to conduct a Divino Diet program. Of course, it is one of the most intelligent diet program. You know, in spirituality, you need to consider each and every single aspect, and you have to make sure that everything falls in the right place. So, in this diet system, we'll discuss all the diets in this world, including keto, Mediterranean, paleo, and also yogic diet, and also mucusless diet, what yogis and siddhas spoke about. By combining all these things, and the principles of Ayurveda and Siddha also comes into play. What's the diet which suits you well? What's a holistic diet? What makes you feel divine? That's why I named it as Divino Diet. Ultimately, it drives you to the divinity. On 22nd of this month, we're planning to conduct the Spiritual Divino Life program. In this program, we'll discuss about all the aspects of spirituality. Starts from yama and yama and all 10 stages of samadhi. It is a complete blueprint for spirituality. You know, attending this 3-hour class will definitely unreveal all the paths in spirituality. So, fundamentally, you can be your own guide. Spirituality is always spoken here and there, and it's always misleading. People talk about so many fragmented things and different parts, but they're not getting a whole picture. To make every single aspect of spirituality into a one single capsule, to make every single aspect to meet at a particular point, this divine spiritual lifestyle program will definitely help you out. So consider checking it out. And let us enter into today's topic. Kundalini. The word literally means in Sanskrit a coil or a snake or a ring. So we can combine these words into a more meaningful form like a coiled snake. In Tamil, one of the etymologists, a researcher, broken down this word even further. Kundalam Kutalinimai, Kundalinimai, and it transformed into Kundalini. So Kundalam essentially means a vessel. Inimai means a blissfulness. So Kundalinimai essentially means a vessel which contains the essence of blissfulness. This Kundalini is so explained so beautifully in Tamil, but the sources of Vedas emerged from Sanskrit language. So there are 108 Upanishads under all four Vedas. In this 108 Upanishads, 12 are named as principal Upanishads. These Upanishads are undertaken by Adi Shankaracharya, and this part of experience is mainly due to the exploration of consciousness. They are the way for Jnana Yoga. The other end of the spectrum, there are 20 yogas on Kundalini. So 20 Upanishads were written just for yoga and Kundalini. So both these sides are always fighting for their place. But here we'll discuss both and why it is essential to know the both of things. So Kundalini energy is a feminine. So to approach it, there are several ways. Many number of ways are there. But one of the most sensible way is how we are treating a female. So in order to treat it, we should be so gentle. We should not force her or pull her away. That won't work on her. So the Kundalini energy should be handled as gentle as a female being. So there are other forms of forceful awakening, just like hitting a snake with a stick and making it erect. This is also a way to bring the Kundalini up, but it comes with a consequence. There are particular system of yoga called Kundalini Yoga. This form of yoga is a fast track for Kundalini, but it comes with a consequence because it causes lots and lots of damage in your neurology and your basic function of your body. We'll discuss how these energies causes lot of disturbances in your system. In the stories we are going to see. So this Kundalini practice should be so hidden so that only the prepared practitioners should access that, because when your body is not prepared, when your neurology is not prepared, when it rises up, it causes a sense of distortion. It causes a sense of heavy weight which is placed on your head, which essentially turns into an headache. So we should be very aware of it. Sometimes it might become feverish, even though these experiences are temporary. We'll get the result, but the body and neurology should be cooperating with you to experience that feeling fully. So we need to prepare it. So that's why we adapted so many forms of yoga. So what's the origin? So fundamentally, all these Vedas are the essential origin for it. Right after this, all these Vedas bloomed because in olden days, people were not away from enlightenment. People are just a step away because they ate pure raw food, not essentially vegetarian, but it is raw. It has a lot of life energy. The body is so pure and they don't need any negative emotions. There are not many negative emotions when it comes to prehistoric period. So they are having the highest possibility to awaken the Kundalini. So why it is really necessary to awaken the Kundalini? So we all function in our body, but when the Kundalini awakens within you, it is like your efficiency, your productivity will go up to 10x. It does not mean you'll become 10x strong. It does not mean you become 10x intelligent. Just imagine a person who is having a little bit of intelligence can able to do the work much more efficiently than other. When somebody was able to complete a task in 5 minutes, in a 5 minutes of span, if a guy was able to complete 10 tasks, another guy was only able to complete one task. It does not mean he's having 10x or 10x more energy or 10x more memory. It doesn't work that way. It essentially means that the other guy is slightly better, just enough to be 10x more. That's how things work. So, in order to function at your fullest potential, we need to access the Kundalini. It does not end there. What I spoke now is for materialism. When it comes to spirituality, in order to experience consciousness, you need to have an intense energy. This intense energy is supplied by Kundalini, the energy which is coiled in the base of your spine. So, if you open the perineum at the base of the spine, Muladhara, there won't be any coiling snake sitting over there. But we can theorize something. So, in the male testicles, all the seminal vesicles, if you see, it will be like a coiled thing. It will be like a snake. So, some yogi would have seen this and named this as a snake. This is my logical theory behind it. It might not be the essential truth. Essential truth. So, the Kundalini, when it is awakened, how it will be? So, When the Mooladhara is so active, it is necessary to be active, to be alive, to be moving. It is associated with musculoskeletal system. When you have a strong musculoskeletal system, you'll have activation of Mooladhara. If you have drive to live, your Mooladhara will be active. It is fundamental desire. When it moves up, we all seek pleasure, various form of pleasure. When it reaches Swadhisthana, all the pleasure in this world will be attracting you to go and spend all your energy there. If you spend all your energy, you'll be happy. You'll be always partying. You'll always like to eat so many things. You always like to travel. You always like to chat with your friends. It is pleasure seeking. It falls under least resistance. When it moves up into Manipuraga, where it makes you to run and pursue something, the pursuing is something that keeps on pushing you towards a restlessness. You want to do this, you want to do that, I want to build this, I want to buy this, I want to create something so interesting. All this passion driven by our physical and mental exertion is spent on Manipuraga. So if you spend all this thing in Manipuraga, you will be sticking on to this pattern. When you want to rise beyond Manipuraga, you should be more compassionate. You have to understand that you are not the only one who is working to that. There are so many people who are suffering. So when you focus your eyes onto others, you'll have a biggest jump because all three chakras we have discussed now is of a lower form. But when it comes to Anahata, it has taken a big leap because when you attain Anahata, you have a very higher possibility to climb up. The Anahata is unstruck heartbeat. It always sympathizes and empathizes others. It always extends its arm to help others. When the energy climbs above that, it leads to Vishuddhi. Vishuddhi means ultimate purity, ultimate cleanliness. It is untouched by any impurities. Purity in its ultimate form. When the Vishuddhi is so active, it means that you're pure. You're not jealous of anybody. You're pure within and out. But still, you're not at the highest place. But it is a great attainment. In Tamil Siddhas, they call it as Tirnilakantha. So after climbing beyond that, when you reach to Agna, your energies will be like this. When you break the barrier of egoness, and I say ego, it doesn't mean it's arrogance. The ego sense is that you are the one who are doing all these things. When the thing is at dis-ease, If you're not able to perform very easily, it essentially means that you're working from within to work out things. You are the one who is doing, you are the one who is putting the effort. When it becomes automatic, the intuition is opening up. The intuition opens up. The moment you see things, it will get processed like a supercomputer, and you will know the answer before the question is thrown to you. That's the part of intuition, pragna, so that just by observing you, they could be able to tell all the aspects of your life with utmost precision. It is the power of intuition. When you go beyond that, when you reach Sarasrara, the Sarasrara means thousand petals. Why do you mean thousand petals? Because when you take the dimensions in different degrees, the thousand petals shows this into different points of degrees. It shows all the points, essential points a degree can be. I'll tell you, many traditions doesn't accept this as a chakra because anything which functions within you is called as chakras. Anything which swirls, which joins in conjunction and moves the system is called chakra. So there is no such thing which is spinning inside you. So when you reach this state, you'll be totally, completely peaceful, satisfied. In Sarasrara, where the Shakti meets Shiva, when the pair gets together, there is nothing more. They become one. So when you are utmost satisfied with everything around you, there is nothing to pursue. There is nothing to run after. I recently encountered my friend. Her name is Prasanna. So without realizing it, she attained the awakening of Kundalini. So she experiences intense peace. Of course, she's a yoga practitioner, but this lack of knowledge of awakening Kundalini will make you astray because many people who attained this state didn't even realize this Kundalini. Scientists call it as flow state. Athletes call it as athlete zone. So the runners call it as runner's high. Essentially, it all means the rise of Kundalini in some aspects. But for athletes and all those people, it is temporary. But for a yogi, it is the essential life existence. That's the difference between the flow of temporary people around there. So now we'll explore the scientific aspect of it, scientific reasoning. So when the people were observed in the flow state, they're not using the front part of their brain. So the front part of the brain is essentially for having a strong willpower, having the thinking, judgmenting, discriminating, interpreting. But this part shuts off when you are in a flow state. You don't need any discrimination. So this state is called transient hypofrontality. That means temporary decreased in the activity of frontal lobe of your brain. So when your front part of your brain is acting like a filter, when the filter is removed, the body absorbs all the information which comes into it and takes straightly into the consciousness. This consciousness doesn't process this information consciously. If it handles such a large information very consciously, when it puts into attention into a concentrated form, it blows it. It blows the mind. It cannot handle such a huge insurge of information. So the front parts of the brain starts to sleep and remaining part of the brain all becomes active. So you function like something else. So this is the scientific theory behind Kundalini experience. Physiologically, you feel so energetic, so peaceful. So this phenomenon is explained by different masters, different gurus in their stories. Let us discuss one by one how the masters shared their experience, their first awakening of Kundalini. First, we'll go with something so simple and we'll go into complex things. First one is from a famous guru who is still alive now, but for sensitivity reasons, I will keep his name subdued. So he went to his hometown. One day he was climbing a small mountain. When he climbed up and he sat in a small rock, and he was just sitting and staring the sky. Suddenly something within him expanded and felt everything else, and the body or his fundamental flesh is one and the same. There is no discrimination. So when it comes to Kundalini, the fundamental part is you will feel oneness. All the gurus, all the sages who experienced this came up with the same experience, came up with the same terminologies. But there are few alterations here and there. But fundamentally, they all felt this oneness. So after that, he lost the sense of time. He just thought that it's just a few minutes, but it went to into hours. Another guru who is also still alive and nobody knows where he is right now. He experienced in the similar way which I've discussed in our first story. He also went into a mountain and sat on the rock, but he got the view of 360 degree because When you are enlightened, when the Kundalini is awake, the insurge of information is so rapid and so absorptive that you don't know from which direction you are seeing. You don't know which direction you are hearing, but your body will respond. In Tamil, they will say it as நான் என்ற உணர்வு அழிந்து தான் என்ற உணர்வு விழித்ததாம். So, the experience of nirvana, experience of dharmamega samadhi, the experience of Brahman, all are same as Kundalini. They're all expressions in a different form and different names. So, the third story is from Vivekananda. Vivekananda is so much energetic. His body is so prepared, his neurology is so prepared. He's just a step away from the awakening, but still, he's not able to get there until a day. He went to Ramakrishna and said that you're saying all those nonsense about God, but nothing seems to be convincing me. Nothing seems to be making a clear reasoning to me. So the Ramakrishna asked Vivekananda, "Are you ready? Are you are you ready to take the intense experience?" Yes, of course. Vivekananda is striving for it all day long, all his life. He was constantly haunted with this question: why? Who is God? This question is answered. The Ramakrishna just stood up and went towards Vivekananda and just placed his feet into the chest of Vivekananda. That moment just broke all the ego in Vivekananda because Vivekananda is already ready. He is just an atom bomb waiting to burst. Everything in his body is so ready to feel the experience of Kundalini, but something which prevents him from experiencing it. That's his ego. That's his intellect. So when Ramakrishna gave a blow to the chest of Vivekananda, that barrier of ego broken down and insurge of information, the insurge of consciousness broke into Vivekananda. From that point onwards, for next 12 hours, he cannot discriminate what is this and what is that. Whatever things he sees, he sees as a god. Even the pot in his house felt like God. He expressed the feeling of oneness in the word of God, but the experience is essentially same. Even the Paranjodi Mahan, the lineage of my master, experienced it and said it in a different manner. So, the all three stories, till now, what I've said is one type of Kundalini experience. So, this type of Kundalini, which I've discussed right now, is an expansive one. It expands outwards. The second type of Kundalini experience, which I'm going to discuss now, is constricting to the point where the minuscule is so small and it disappears. So when it shrinks and it disappears, it also produces the same indiscrimination, the absence of discrimination, like the expansiveness. So the Paranjali Mahan, who experienced it as a darkness, Irul Tattva, he called it as Irul Tattva. Everything else disappears and it constricts, and only the darkness remains. This experience is similar to Buddha. He said Buddha doesn't accept this Kundalini as a god. He calls it as Nirvana. He said when he attained enlightenment, when the Kundalini is raising, he said it as I've awakened. So the awakening means the awakening of Kundalini. But his approach is different. His approach is awareness. Through awareness, you can activate Kundalini. There are other stories from Gopi Krishna. Gopi Krishna experienced it differently. He felt like a strong silvery light from his spine shot up into his brain, and his brain was luminous. It the light which explodes into his brain was so bright. So the experience is similar to the experience of Vallala, Ramalinga Adigal. We call it as Arutperanjodi. It is similar experience as Gopi Krishna. So finally, I would like to discuss the Kundalini experience which I have experienced in both the forms. I'm fortunate enough to experience the Kundalini experience in both dimensions. I've experienced the constrictive blankness and ever expansive brightness. So, the first experienced when I went into Vipassana. So, my story is not so fancy like other gurus, but the truth is, when I go to Vipassana, on the seventh day, after I went to that doom, when I came out, there is no differentiation between me and others. But it is so transient. I experienced for just 2 or 3 hours. Again, I was back into my normal state. It was temporary to me. The second one is something which I've experienced so recently. I was constantly meditating to enter into samadhi. So I was practicing meditation for a very long time. I was fortunate enough to be guided by my father in the path of spirituality. So when I constantly try to get into the state of samadhi, one day my body is absent, my body is disappeared. There is complete blankness. I cannot say it is as darkness or color because I cannot name it. Only thing which is there is just me. So this state is when I was. So this was my second experience. From this point, I got mastery over my emotions. I got mastery over my containers. I got mastery over my existence. So the process is so long to me because for past 6 years I've been into intense spirituality. I was taming my mind in all the aspects. I was cleaning my mind emotionally. I was cleaning my body by eating pure foods. I'm aware that the cleanliness is what which helped me to attain this. The internal cleanliness which brought me such a beautiful experience. All the gurus emphasize this. Even Gopi Krishna says that pure body and pure mind so necessary. Even if you have an illness, it does not mean you cannot experience it. Ramana Maharishi experienced and Ramakrishna experienced even when their body is so ill. So even if you're so ill, you can experience it, but it is so difficult. It takes a lot of effort. But when your body is so clean, 80% of the work has been done for you. You just have to work to align and make sure that you do small tinkering here and there. That's how the experiences spreads through. So fundamentally, Kundalini can be awakened by so many techniques. But I suggest you to have an intelligent diet. I suggest you to have an intelligent lifestyle. I suggest you to have an emotional cleanliness before you forcefully awaken the Kundalini. The Kundalini Yogas are so concentrated, are so direct. You can learn from whatever guru because the belief, the fundamentally, there is nothing called right or wrong unless you can experience the ultimate. Whatever path you take, it can be so rationalized. Only experience matter. But to be truly liberated, to be at a state of Jivan Mukti, to be at the state of a complete liberation, you need to know both the intellectual aspect and spiritual experience. The experience helps you to understand this. This experience prepares the consciousness to make this intellectual part assimilate into you. Like the same, if you have an intellectual path, if you have an intellectual route or a milestone, you can reach this. So I kindly request you guys to attend the program of Diviner Spiritual Life. It is almost free because just for an entry, you'll be needing to pay certain amount. Even if you can't pay that amount, you can pay and attend. At the end of the session, you can just send a small message or you can email me and your money will be returned. So I need to give it as a service because in order to make this effort to reach more, I need your participation. So I'd like you to guys participate in this wonderful program and benefit from it. We have so many programs coming up next. All these programs are designed based on yogic dynamics and it is so gentle so that it prepares you from the root and definitely the fruit of spirituality will definitely ripe and make your life sweeter. Have a great day. Have a beautiful Sunday. Relax it, experience spirituality, and I'm happy once again to deliver this scientifically and correlating all these things into one thing. Have a great day. Enjoy.